Okay, Shalom Israel, we're back, and this is another segment of Yashayah Speaks, and talking about women and women issues and sisterhood and things of that nature. And I always have to give glory and praise to AHAYAH, AHAYAH, Bahashem Yashayah, just because he covers me in my life. So just always uplifting his name. Okay, now I wanted to go into scripture, and I wanted to kind of go into the curses. And so I want to start with Eve, and that the curse that the Most High first put the women under because of the sin. And if we go to Genesis 3 and 15, 3 and 16, it says, "Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow, and thy conception in sorrow, that thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be for thy husband, and he shall rule over you." Now, it seems that a lot of women, may or may not have issues with it, and this is what the Most High established very early on in the scripture, is in Genesis, the 3rd chapter. So we basically have been operating under this curse for, all our generations. And, the Most High, it's true that the Most High made the man, and from the man he made the woman. And so we are to be under submission to the man. And I don't understand why that is such a problem when there can only be one head and one leadership in a household, in a situation, in everything. There has to be some kind of order. So, it's not really a problem, and I don't believe that a lot of women really don't have a problem with submitting to their husband and, being the helpmeet that the Most High raised them up to be. I don't believe that there is an issue with that. I think what happens is because, especially in our generation, there's so much dysfunction going on amongst us, and we've been dealing with so much sorcery and so much witchcraft and so, many things, that because they use the woman to be put over the man in a lot of emphasis as far as jobs and rearing the house and all these things, that it's hard for women to kind of come back to their natural state. But once we go into the scriptures, and we're going to go into Deuteronomy, and the Most High clearly showed that he even cursed us again even further. After the first curse, because of Eve, being deceived by Satan, he cursed us. But then he cursed us again once we broke the laws and statutes and commandments in Israel. And then he cursed us and said we would go into captivity. We, the women, and I'm just focusing on the women, he put us under an even further curse. And that's when you go into Deuteronomy. On Deuteronomy 28 and 56, it says, the tender and the delicate woman among you, which would not venture to set the sole of her feet upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil towards her husband of her bosom, and towards her son, and towards her daughter. So this kind of explains to you what we have been dealing with, and why brothers are complaining that sisters are so mean and they have a bad attitude and this and that. Basically, you can see it's due to the curses that the Most High has put us under. And we can go even further, Isaiah 49 and 15, it says, "Can a woman forget her sucking child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, that they may forget, yet will I not forget thee." And basically, there's abortions and being able to, discard the children in our womb, and that whole curse that we have been under, being in slavery and just disregarding the life that the Most High had given us, and being able to bear children and things like that. And that's why the Planned Parenthood thing is so the Planned Parenthood is so prevalent in our communities, and just really in our psyche like it's really okay, when actually all this is against the Most High, and it keeps us breaking the law, So I just, it just really all comes back to the curses, really, when it comes down to it. These are the curses that the Most High put us under for being disobedient. This is why the sisters, having issues with the men of the Most High, with their children, with relationships, and why, we are going through these things with one another, and we can't seem to get it together as a people. I mean, for those who are woken up and who now can see and know the truth, with us, there comes a level of understanding, and we start to process a lot of the information that we received. But for the people that are still asleep, they're still operating in those same spirits, with those demons, and they are blind to it. And a lot of it, I believe, is the Most High is dealing with us according to our hearts. And he said that he would do that, and I'll pull the scripture on that. But the Most High told us that he will, according to our hearts, is how he would judge us. Now, I'm going to explain. I'm having problems with my computer, and so it just cuts off, and then I kind of got to start all over and continue from the conversation where I left off, which is kind of hard, because sometimes I don't really know what I've already talked about. So just bear with me in this as I try to, record this. Okay, so I want to address, some of the stuff that our sisters have been going through. The fact that, it's on our spirits, like we can't get along. And especially when it comes to men, when, sisters start to deal with men come into equation, especially when you have two friends, this always seems to be an issue because the women can't seem to get along. They start fighting over the guy. It's just, it's amazing. But I guess this is due, as well to the curses. And we have to kind of understand that. And, I know that a lot of our sisters have been through so much. There's so much pain and so much that they have to work through forgiveness and being understanding and getting back to loving each other and just being kind to one another. But it's really hard when you're operating and you don't even understand that you're operating under those demonic spirits. And I see and I noticed a lot with sisters that immediately when another woman comes around in your realm, you immediately don't like her. There's something against her, and I'm not talking about the surface, like hi, shalom, and everybody and that whole pretentiousness. I'm talking about in the spirit, and when you actually get down to it, you find that sisters are always talking about each other. They always have a problem with stuff, and they always not like you for some reason. They always not like you for some reason. And now I understand that these are spirits that we're dealing with, because now that I know the truth and I understand the level of sorcery. But before, I just didn't understand it. I didn't get it why sisters were so mean to each other, and just they'll appear nice on the surface and everything will seem okay, but underneath it was a lot, very malicious, very mean, very catty, and and on the whole, just dealing with and operating in Babylon, it is just a level of like phoniness. It was always about what you had, and your car and your house, and this, and people really dealing with you because there was something that you can do for them, kind of thing. And and that same spirit is with sisters dealing amongst each other. I mean, don't have a bunch of friends and then a man will come into an equation. I mean, it would be ridiculous. And if one person was seeing a man, and then sometime later you find out that another sister was sleeping with him on the side in secret. And it was always that kind of level of thing going on. And I, in a sense, I understand, because if a sister is that's her spirit, and that she's sleeping around or she takes someone else's man, of course she's going to be very protective of another woman who comes in because she feels that it could happen to her. So then you start to understand why women operate in the way that they do. If she's dealing with a demonic spirit where she messed around with somebody else's husband, she took someone else's husband, then of course she, in her mind, in her psyche, she, thinks everybody's out to do that to her, because that's the spirit in which she's dealing with, And this is some of the things that I feel that some of our sisters are operating in, we have to own up to what's going on and be real with one another, and so that we can start to cleanse and start to, be accountable for our behavior. If this is how you do things and how you've done things in the past, I guess you think you suspect that of everyone else, and you think that everybody operates like that because that's the spirit that you're operating in. Which brings me to the whole I, me syndrome or spirit. What I find is that a lot of women base their self-worth on their body parts, and this is kind of what the demonic spirits inside, Babylon has kind of instilled it in us. The whole, me and self and individuality, and everything is based on your looks and on your beauty, and so a lot of women tend to believe that their self-worth is based on their physical, meaning how big their backside is, or their, the breast, or how long their hair is, or their beauty. Now, granted, the Bible does emphasize, the beauty of a woman, or the comeliness, of a man. So we know that, those things is a good thing to have. But when you base your whole existence on these things, it becomes a problem. And especially when it comes to dealing with men and women, and when we go into the, self-worth aspect of things, and women who are married or thinking about getting married, when you're dealing with that kind of psyche, and then after being in a relationship for a while and this and that, then you find that the man is maybe interested in another woman, or your husband is kind of now knowing the truth, is hinting around to have a second wife or third wife or multiple wives, that it starts to take away from your self-worth, because in your mind and spirit you believe that that's your worth. Everything is based on your physical, you mating with your husband, the sex. So naturally, if a man starts talking about having another woman to have sex with, you feel like, what's your purpose? And that's why sisters have to dig deep and within the spirit and go into the scriptures and kind of get some understanding of what is really going on and what this is all about. And when you go into Proverbs 31, the scriptures clearly gives you an indication of a woman in the Most High eyes of what's the standard and what he feels is a righteous woman. And so you have to take away that whole thing about the me and I and your body parts as being the main asset of you. And this is something that I feel our sisters have to deal with, because it's so not about how good you look or your physical. It goes into your works and your worth as a woman, and how your husband regards you because of the things that you do and how you handle and carry yourself, and that your children regard you as blessed because they see your works. So sisters can no longer, have that as a criteria, and this is why the relationship starts to have problems, because if a man starts considering having another wife, or she finds out that he had another woman, everything is out the window for her, because she was basing her whole purpose on her physical and what, how good she thought she was in the bed, and how attracted he is to her. And it comes to find out that that's not what motivates him at all. And so this is an issue, and sisters really got to go deep within themselves. You can no longer, play those games that you would play with yourself, thinking that this is why, what held your husband. And